colleges and universities across the country are dealing with tremendous challenges as far as coronavirus. It has resulted in students being sent home, faculty, staff, online learning, and more. Big changes. What does this mean for the future, too, when the fall semester begins, freshman orientation, and more? I'm pleased to welcome to Jimmy at the Crossroads, the Communications Department Chair at my alma mater, Regis University. He is an associate professor there and also the Director of Forensics, the debate program at Regis University. Dr. Rob Margesson, PhD, joins us here on Jimmy at the Crossroads via the phone. Rob, sir, welcome. Good to talk with you, my friend.
Good to talk to you as well, Jimmy. How are you doing today on this?
I'm doing pretty well. Now, how are you doing amidst the COVID-19, and then here in Denver, Colorado, of course, we've got snow, as you were just mentioning.
Yeah. I'm doing well. I'm locked in my house with a 21-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old daughter, and we have managed to go this far without a single fight or argument, knock on wood. So
impressive.
We're riding it out.
Most impressive.
Yeah, I know.
So how are they handling it? To bring us into the mind of a teenager and a 21-year-old in this era where they can't go out, they can't socialize, they can't be seeing friends, they got to be socially distant, maybe having phone calls, doing video chats on FaceTime and stuff. How are they handling it, your daughters?
Yeah. They're handling it surprisingly well. Luckily they get along with one another, so they have a built-in friend in the house, and they have a lot in common. And yeah, there's a lot of FaceTiming and various other technologies that I am unfamiliar with that they're using to kind of fill the time. And my oldest daughter, her boyfriend actually got COVID, so she hasn't seen him. He had an essential job. He was working in a grocery store, so she had to deal with that. But he's better now. She's happy.
Good.
So
Good.
But we're making it work.
Again, Dr. Rob Margesson is our guest, Associate Professor of Communications at Regis University, and you are plugged in, you have been very plugged in to academia all across the country, especially because as a debate coach, you have traveled around the nation, and a debate judge going visiting colleges, universities. What are things like right now at the college level?
They're surprisingly calm for the most part. I think because they have to be for now. Most universities, I think, and Regis being an example, were smart enough to kind of build a week or even more off between when students had to leave campus and when online learning started. So, had they just kind of said on Friday we're going online and you need to be online on Monday, I think it would have been total chaos. But most institutions gave faculty a week to kind of get their course shells online and figure out to the best of their ability how to do assignments online and to hold classes online, which is an interesting thing to do, I'm learning. So I'd say, just in terms of, functioning, from what I can tell, and I'm part of a number of different online communities that are talking about this issue, most folks seem to be getting by. At the same time, you're not going to be able to teach to your best ability in this situation with this so little warning. So I think a lot of professors across the country, and I definitely am one of them, have kind of had to revamp my expectations in terms of what I can ask the students to do, how much work I can assign them. So it's going smoothly, but I'm guessing that the students are not learning as much as they would in a classroom setting. And if this continues into the fall, which it might, then hopefully professors will have the summer to build course shells online that are even more detailed and cover more of the material. But I probably cut 25% of my content out.
Okay. Oh, wow, that's striking. 25. It makes sense, perfect sense that you would have to do that, especially when you can't present it face-to-face in class and have that same level of interactivity. We'll talk about the fall in a moment. But, Rob, when we talk about online learning and adapting to that, how are you conducting it? How are your colleagues, both at Regis University and other institutions of higher education around the country, handling that? Are you doing Zoom instruction? Are you doing where you make files available to students? How is that being done?
Everyone has their own way of doing it. I could speak to my way, and I can maybe give you an example of a colleague of mine as well. My classes are very discussion-oriented. The content, I teach ethics, I teach free speech, I teach argumentation. Those are classes where, just standing up and giving lectures is not very common. So I really had to adapt. We're meeting once or twice a week. We're using Zoom. And I'm, giving them a reading every week, which I've had to some of them were not readings I was originally going to do, but I've just had to find readings to supplement lost class time. And, once a week or so, I'll meet my classes as a group, we'll walk them through the readings, answer any questions they have, which is an interesting thing to do as well, because, with Zoom, if everyone tries to talk at once, it's a chaotic mess. And then I'm just giving them, a weekly assignment and a due date, and I'm holding an online or a couple online office hours every week. So I just say I'll be on Zoom at a particular time and day if you have any questions or just want to come in and talk about the material. So, that's how I've adapted. Students seem to enjoy this particular model. I think, not being forced to be in front of the computer all the time because of me, I think is something the students like, knowing that they can, see me when they want and see me when they can.
Sure.
But I have colleagues, my daughter, who is a Regis University student, she's got 4 classes she's still doing online, maybe 5. I should know that. But, and, some of her classes are, we are meeting at the same, we meet at Tuesday, Thursday, 9:30 to 10:45. There is attendance policy. I don't have an attendance policy during this. To me, that seems a little rough. We're meeting at our regular times. We're having attendance policies. The assignments are still the assignments that were due at the beginning of the semester. Mm-hmm. Office hours are still the office hours that they were at the beginning of the semester. So some faculty members, I think,
sure,
so, pretty much just took their class and moved it.
Got it. So when it comes to, obviously there's not on-campus living. Students were sent home, told you can't stay on campus at almost every institution around the country. And those students then were no longer in their dorms. They'd paid for those dorms. They'd paid maybe for lunch plans, meal plans. Have there been refunds giving out? What's your understanding of that process for Regis University in Denver and then other institutions around the country? Any insight into that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I will say that there are still a number of students on various campuses around the United States. Regis University, I don't want to throw out a made-up number, but there's still a decent number of students living on campus at Regis for a variety of reasons. For some students, they just can't pick up and leave. And my daughter's boyfriend lives on campus at Regis in an apartment with the same roommate. So some students are still there. But to answer the bigger question, one of my first concerns as a parent was I've spent quite a bit of money to pay for housing and food that my daughter's not eating. What are you going to do for me? And my understanding, I haven't seen the money yet, but Regis is returning, I think, around 30% of what I paid for my daughter's housing and food. And I'm hearing other universities around the United States are doing similar things. Looking at the calendar, seeing how much, what percentage of the semester was lost in terms of housing and feeding,
sure,
and then refunding that particular amount. It would be kind of suicidal to not give money back for those things. They can't really carry over into next semester. You can't be housed twice simultaneously to make up for lost housing. So, but these are the type of things that are going to really hurt universities, is giving money back.
Sure. Dr. Rob Margesson, let's look out into the fall semester, especially for freshmen. Let's say this does carry over. It's possible that it could well carry over into the fall semester. I hope not. Tell me how likely you think it is. But if that is indeed the case, how will universities handle this, do you think, especially when it comes to freshmen orientation? Because that's an opportunity normally where students go to campus, they get into their dorms, they get to meet friends and find their way on the university, and maybe that's delayed to spring semester 2021.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. I I would be guessing at the odds of it extending into the fall. My university, I had a meeting with our dean just recently, and he basically said, be prepared to teach in class and be prepared to teach online. Be equally prepared for both, because we really don't know. And even if we do start in the fall, it's entirely possible that this could flare up again, and we would get a month into the semester and say, nope, go back home. We're not ready for this yet. So that's a real possibility. I think a very frightening possibility, I think, for the parents of first-year students, knowing that their students might just up and get sent home again without much warning. And the universities, it's not even just orientation in the fall, but if you even look at this semester, this is a big, semester for recruiting, especially to, kind of private liberal arts colleges like Regis University. One of the ways we get students from other universities is to bring those students here in the spring when the weather's beautiful and the grass is green and the leaves are, nice and brown, and we walk them around our campus and show them all the buildings and, sell the university to their parents. And I know a lot of students at Regis that I've worked with over the years have told me that they weren't planning on going to Regis University until they came in the spring with their parents and they saw, the small class sizes and they saw the beautiful university and they met faculty and they talked to other Regis students. Yeah. So even this spring, recruiting was just really devastated by, and so much of our students, so many of our students come as a result of that recruiting. So, I don't know what the numbers are going to look like at Regis, and Regis, I would say, represents a lot of small liberal arts colleges. So it's definitely going to hurt recruiting and, probably cause a lot of students who might move out of state to attend a private university to stay closer to home and, either attend a private school near their home or attend a community college for a year to make sure that this blows over before they invest that time and energy into, private college, or in state colleges suffer as well, but not nearly as much. So
once again,
the numbers, who knows?
Sure. We're talking with Dr. Rob Margesson, Associate Professor of Communication at Regis University in Denver, Colorado, and also Chair of the Communications Department there. I want to shift gears because you mentioned free speech class, and I'm sure we'll have you back at a future point to talk about free speech on college campuses. But you and I have talked about this quite a lot, including on my radio show in Denver on 710 KNUS, but you're a self-described leftist. I am most definitely not. You know full well that I began my media experiences as a student at Regis University in 2008 at the height of what I call Obama mania, when I started a conservative political talk show on the radio station there. And I got a great experience, and I was able to do things that now I've talked with you, I've talked with students of yours, I've talked with other folks at Regis, I couldn't do today if I were a student on campus. And not because of coronavirus, but because of a decline in advocacy for free speech on college campuses. You are a free speech advocate. That's why you teach free speech. Tell us what you think the environment is like on college campuses at this point in America's history when it comes to free speech, especially conservative or libertarian-leaning views on campuses.
We've talked about this quite a bit. I always enjoy talking about this with you. I think the state of free speech on college campuses right now is college campuses are risk averse. I think administrators in particular are risk averse when it comes to bringing on speakers who might offend certain student populations. In my classes, talking to students, and it's a very small sample size, but I'll use it. A lot of my students, especially students who are in groups that would be considered marginalized groups, they're not as opposed to bringing folks on, conservative speakers in general. They're not opposed to having those folks come and talk. And I know some campuses they're more, social justice aggressive. Regis might not be as aggressive as others. But the students don't seem to be afraid of hearing those voices, but administrators are. I can tell numerous stories about speaking to different administrators about different speakers that want to come on campus and different student groups that want to bring those students on campus. And it's the administrators who say no. It's the administrators who are afraid that, certain student groups will get offended. It's administrators that are afraid there's going to be pushback. So I think we're just at a point now where it's easier for administrators to just say no to any, and I've noticed a significant decline, at Regis in recent years of speakers at all, not just, provocative or conservative speakers, but just, we used to have quite a few leftist speakers come, and I'm barely seeing those at all now. I mean, most of the speakers we're getting on campus are very, safe. They're talking about, lectures on the key to happiness or some, things that, no one can be offended by a lecture on happiness, right? And I use that example because I was in charge of putting that speaker together.
Okay.
Well,
let me jump in. Let me jump in for a moment, because what you're saying is interesting in terms of administrators being risk averse, even more so than students. But is it that they are fearful of the students who are outspoken on these kinds of topics, especially for conservative speakers, but also they decide, hey, maybe we shouldn't even get into controversial areas, which, by the way, are the most thought-provoking areas as well, when you have controversial speakers making controversial points and you have engagement with students and the speaker and what have you. But also, I think you and I have talked about, and you made mention before of the idea of minority students or more marginalized student groups that are more open to free speech, but in a lot of cases you can have white students who are not considered more marginalized groups who are the most vocally opposed to more conservative speakers going on to campus and expressing views. Tell us about that and tell us why that is.
Well, I can give you a small example of that. I taught my free speech class, not the one you visited most recently, but the class I taught before that. I had two black female students in that class, and then the rest of the class were at least presented as white, to my knowledge. And we got into this question of, would you feel comfortable with someone coming onto campus who maybe, is considered racist? And
considered by whom?
Two black students. Oh, well, just hypothetical, whoever.
Okay.
Let's say they have a reputation. It's a hypothetical here. The two young black women were fine with it, absolutely fine with it, and they actually welcomed the opportunity to engage with that rhetoric. But it was the white students in the class were very opposed to it, and their argument primarily was about protecting the very students, at least two representative students in my class, who said they're fine with it. They, my white students were, we can't do that. There's, marginalized students on this campus. It's going to cause stress and tension and fear in those communities. And it was kind of an odd juxtaposition of the two young black women saying, no, we don't need you to do that. We said we're comfortable with it. We're willing to engage. We want to listen. We want to argue back. So I think there's, kind of a white savior complex around issues like this of, the white students feel like they're obligated to protect their marginal. It's not just race. That's just the example I use. But, these students feel like they are obligated to protect the marginalized people.
Protect them, shield them.
Oftentimes those students say, I don't want you to protect me, and I'm actually interested in engaging, because it's bringing speakers on campus. It's not just listening to speakers. I mean, if you go to any speaking event on most campuses, there's Q&A after. There's opportunities to engage these speakers. So these students who are being protected actually want to stand up at that microphone after that presentation.
Sure.
And ask tough questions and engage in an argumentation with these people. I think that's one of the things that's lost.
Sure.
An important thing that's lost.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, as you well know, and I do appreciate, Dr. Rob Margesson, you having me speak to your free speech class just, what was it, last year? Was it 2 years ago now? Time flies. It all blends together. But whenever it was, you had me come and speak to your free speech class, a leftist professor bringing conservative talk show hosts onto campus because you value free speech. And this is something I've known about you since we became friends. I never had you as a professor, but I did. I brought you on my radio show at Regis and so forth. But I want to shift gears here because we're running out of time with our guest, Dr. Rob Margesson, again, associate professor of communication at Regis University, and also director of the communications department there and in Denver, Colorado. I want to ask you a more political question. Let's play a snippet here. This is a couple of days ago, or a few nights ago, Bernie Sanders endorsing former Vice President Joe Biden for President of the United States. I want to take a listen here and then ask a very specific question.
So today I am asking all Americans, I'm asking every Democrat, I'm asking every independent, I'm asking a lot of Republicans, to come together in this campaign to support your candidacy, which I endorse, to make certain that we defeat somebody who I believe, and I'm speaking just for myself now, is the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country.
So that's Bernie Sanders, a snippet of him endorsing Joe Biden. I'm curious your thought from the left. Do you think that the leftists, the further left elements of the Democratic Party will rally behind Joe Biden? Will they turn out to vote for him? Are they going to be enthusiastic enough to keep up that fervor, or is it just going to be rooted in enough hatred of Donald Trump? And are they going to be able to get that hatred flowing through them so that they go out and vote against President Trump in his reelection bid? Or I've seen a growing number of leftists, at least on YouTube, prominent people. Kyle Kalinski's one prominent left-wing YouTuber who's saying, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden. Blame me, fine. Blame me if he loses, but you got to court my vote more in the future. What's the sense coming from the left here, Rob Margesson?
It's pretty evenly split right now. I mean, you say I'm a leftist, but compared to some of my friends, I'm downright conservative.
That's true.
I've been
True enough.
Extremely leftist fan. It's surprisingly, and again, I'm using small sample sizes here, but one of my, most leftist, socialist friends is really banging the drum for Biden right now. And he's using the similar argument that Bernie just made there. It's about removing Donald Trump from office. It's not about, ideology. It's not about getting our way. We just, we have to accept the fact that if we do not get behind Biden, the alternative is worse from their perspective, not yours. And so I'm seeing, quite a few of my friends who, were absolutely opposed to Hillary in the last election cycle, who refused to support her and vote for her, are starting to come around to maybe, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot last time. And so why don't we just kind of, bite the bullet here, vote for Joe, and see if we can't rally some other, socialist candidate for us in 2024. I'm also seeing, though, friends who are equally leftist who just say, hell no, I will never vote for an establishment Democrat. They're bow down to the same corporate masters that the Republicans do. I'm never going to support those people. So, I mean, it's early. It's early in this cycle. Will those people change their mind? I don't know. Will my friends who are supporting Biden right now begrudgingly, regret it and go back? I don't know. But I'm seeing from very, very leftist communities a split now. Mm-hmm. We got to do what we got to do, or no, the DNC screwed us again. We're not going to play that game.
I will tell you this, Rob Margesson, there's some resonance with 2016 and Republicans who said, I may not like Donald Trump very much, but I'm going to support him because I oppose Hillary Clinton strenuously, and we need the Supreme Court justices. And guess what? Donald Trump has delivered on the Supreme Court. I mean, those were the number one and number two reasons, actually reverse that. Number one was Supreme Court. Number two was defeat Hillary, that I was supportive of President Trump in 2016. So there's some resonance here. The question is, will the leftists rally behind Joe Biden? As you say, there's a split. We'll see what happens. Dr. Rob Margesson, my friend, always great to check in with you. Next time, we'll make sure we can get you on camera, but thanks for joining us today here on Jimmy at the Crossroads.
Hey, good work on the show, man. I'm really proud of what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And stay well and healthy. My best to you and your daughters.
Okay, take care, Jimmy.
Once again, Rob Margesson, professor at Regis University, my alma mater in Denver, Colorado, small liberal arts college, but the director of forensics there, and also very plugged into colleges and universities across the country as he judges tournaments, travels around the country, all those good things. Fascinating insights, especially on what's happening in colleges and universities today, but also a strong free speech advocate, which I very much appreciate. That is it.